So let's first discuss about the batch culture. In this, the fermentation is carried out in a closed or batch fermenter. Microorganisms and the nutrient medium are added and left for a period of time. And during the process, nothing is added or removed from the fermenter except for the venting of waste gases. The product formed is separated at the end of the process, and the temperature is controlled and nutrients are usually depleted at the end. The rate of growth during the exponential phase in a batch culture can be expressed in terms of the mean growth rate constant, and it is expressed as K. Continuous culture. In this, the fermentation is carried out in an open fermenter and the nutrients are added and product removed at a steady rate throughout the process. In this, the microorganism is maintained at exponential phase of growth. The pH, temperature and oxygen concentration as well as nutrient and product levels should be kept constant in this process. The continuous culture of microorganism is a technique of increasing importance in microbiology. The essential feature of this technique is that microbial growth in a continuous culture takes place under steady state conditions. That is, growth occurs at a constant rate and in a constant environment. Let's see the advantage of batch culture over continuous culture. In the case of batch culture, it is easy to set up the fermentation process. The environmental conditions are relatively easy to control. The type of vessels that is used in the batch culture can be used for different processes at different times. If the culture becomes contaminated, it is only one batch that is lost. Now let's see the advantages of the continuous culture. It can be carried out in smaller vessels and the productivity is very much high in the case of continuous culture. The high productivity for biomass and intra and extracellular enzyme is more cost effective when it is carried out in continuous culture. Coming to the disadvantages of continuous culture, here the microbial growth, clumping of cells and forming tend to block up the inlet pipes. It can be difficult to control all the environmental factors together in continuous culture and it could lead to considerable amount of waste. And if any kind of contamination occurs, the entire product need to be discarded. It is not possible to create the low nutrient, high stress conditions because such conditions promote the production of secondary metabolites such as penicillin. So this is not possible in the case of continuous culture, but the conditions can be controlled in such a way that batch culture can be used for the production of secondary metabolites. Now let's see the continuous culture or steady state growth of microorganisms in detail. A microbial population can be maintained in the exponential growth phase and at a constant biomass concentration for extended periods in a continuous culture system. There are two major types of continuous culture systems. The first one is the chemostat and second one is the turbidostat. A chemostat is constructed so that sterile medium is fed into the culture vessel at the same rate as the media containing microorganisms is removed. We know that a culture medium consists of all the essential nutrients that is required for the growth of microorganisms. The culture medium for a chemostat possesses an essential nutrient in limiting quantities. For example, that essential nutrients can be an amino acid. Because of the presence of a limiting nutrient, the growth rate is determined by the rate at which new medium is fed into the growth chamber, and the final cell density depends on the concentration of the limiting nutrient. The rate of nutrient exchange is expressed as the dilution rate and it is termed as capital D. The rate at which media flows through the culture vessel is related to the vessel volume, where F is the flow rate and V is the vessel volume. So it can be expressed as D is equal to F by V. For example, if the flow rate is 30 ml per hour and the volume of the vessel is 100 ml, the dilution rate is 0.30 per hour. Both the microbial population level and the generation time are related to the dilution rate. The microbial population density remains unchanged over a wide range of dilution rates. But the generation time decreases. That is, the rate of growth will be increasing as the dilution rate increases. The limiting nutrient will be almost completely depleted under these balanced conditions. This image shows the representation of a continuous culture. Here you can see the nutrient medium and here you can see the air inlet for aeration and agitation that can be provided to the fermentation system. And this is the growth chamber. And here there is an opening for bacterial inoculation and for the air to go out. And in addition to these features shown, the culture vessel will also be fitted with the temperature and pH probes for monitoring the growth conditions. So they came to the end of chemostat. Now let's see what's happening in turbidostat. The second type of continuous culture system is the turbidostat. It has a photocell that measures the absorbance or turbidity of the culture in the growth vessel. The flow rate of media through the vessel is automatically regulated to maintain a predetermined turbidity or cell density. The turbidostats differ from the chemostat in several ways. The dilution rate in a turbidostat varies rather than remaining constant in the case of chemostat. And its culture medium contains all nutrients in excess and none of the nutrient is limiting as in the case of chemostat. The turbidostats operate best at high dilution rate, whereas the chemostat is most stable and effective at lower dilution rate. So there we discussed about the major difference between the chemostat and turbidostat. So the continuous culture systems are very useful because they provide a constant supply of cells in exponential phase and growing at a norm rate. They make possible the study of microbial growth at very low nutrient levels. It is a concentration which is close to those present in the natural environments. So let's see the major difference between the chemostat and turbidostat once again. Chemostat is a system in which the chemical composition is kept at a control level for the culture of microorganisms, whereas in the case of turbidostat, a continuous microbiological culture device which has feedback between the turbidity of the culture vessel and the dilution rate is placed. Chemical composition of the medium is constant in the case of chemostat, whereas turbidity of the medium is constant in the case of turbidostat. Fresh medium is continuously added at the same rate as the removal of products in the case of chemostat, whereas fresh medium is automatically added maintaining a constant turbidity in the case of turbidostat. The dilution rate remains constant in chemostat, but it varies in the case of turbidostat. The fermentation process proceeds with a limiting nutrient, whereas it has no such limiting nutrient in the case of turbidostat. And this is the image of an industrial fermenter. Synchronous cultures. Synchronous cultures are composed of populations of cells that are at the same stage of their life cycle. Synchronous growth of a bacterial population is that during which all bacterial cells of the population are physiologically identical and in the same stage of cell division cycle at a given time. Thus, the entire population is kept uniform with respect to growth and division. Synchronous growth helps studying particular stages of the cell division cycle and their interrelations. In most of the bacterial cultures, the stages of growth and cell division cycle are completely random, and thus it becomes difficult to understand the properties during the course of division cycle using such cultures. To overcome this problem, the microbiologists have developed synchronous culture technique to find synchronous growth of bacterial population. During scientific studies, it is not possible to analyze a single bacterial cell to obtain the information about growth behavior, that is, organization, differentiation, and macromolecular synthesis. Synchronous culture provides the entire cell crop in the same stage of growth. Measurement made on such culture is equivalent to the measurement made on individual cells. Synchronous cultures of bacteria can be obtained by a number of techniques. Two fundamentally different experimental approaches have been employed, and then the first one is a selection by size and age, and second one is a selection by induction technique. So now let's see about the selection by size and age. A population of cells is fractionated on the basis of size in this technique. The cells are filtered so that smallest cells pass through the filter. These small cells are the youngest and must go through their whole cycle before dividing. Alternatively, the largest cells which are ready to divide may be retained or retarded by a filter. These cells are then collected separately and used to obtain a synchronous culture. The most widely used method for obtaining synchronous culture is the Helmstedt-Cummings technique. And instead of filtration, density gradient centrifugation is also used to separate these cells. So now let's see in detail about the Helmstedt-Cummings technique. In this, unsynchronized bacterial culture is filtered through cellulose nitrate membrane filter. The loosely bound bacterial cells are washed from the filter, leaving some cells tightly associated with the filter. The filter is now inverted and fresh medium is allowed to flow through it. The new bacterial cells that are produced by cell division and are not tightly associated with the filter are washed into the effluent. Hence, all cells in the effluent are newly formed and are therefore at the same stage of growth and division cycle. And this effluent thus represents a synchronous culture. And in this image, you can see the Helmstedt-Cummings technique of obtaining synchronous culture. The second method of obtaining synchronous culture is by the selection by induction technique. A synchronous culture is also obtained by the use of shock treatments. These include variation in temperature, starvation, exposure to light, drugs, and sublethal doses of radiation. A commonly used technique involves submitting a culture of microorganism to single or multiple changes in temperature. For example, an exponentially growing culture at 37 degrees Celsius is held for about 30 minutes at 20 degrees Celsius. So this culture from its favorable temperature is being exposed to another temperature, that is from 37 to 20 degrees Celsius. And the lower temperature retards the cell division, and during the interval of 30 minutes, all the cells mature to the point of fission. However, at 20 degrees Celsius, none of the cells will divide. On sudden return of the culture to 37 degrees Celsius, all the cells will divide synchronously. So it's like a culture that is growing in 37 degrees Celsius was exposed to 20 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, and again it was exposed to 37 degrees Celsius, and at that stage all the cells will be dividing synchronously. By repeating this alteration of temperature, synchrony can be obtained in the culture for several generations. The technique based on selection are preferable to those based on induction, since induction is likely to introduce distortion in the physiological state of the cells. So there we come to the end of the synchronous growth. Now let's see what's happening in diopsic growth. Diopsic growth means double growth. It is caused by the presence of two sugars on a culture growth media, one of which is easier for the target bacterium to metabolize than the other. The preferred sugar is consumed first, which leads to rapid growth, followed by a lag phase. During the lag phase, the cellular machinery used to metabolize the second sugar is activated and subsequently the second sugar is metabolized. Diauxic growth is a diphasic growth represented by two growth curves intervened by short lag phase produced by an organism utilizing two different substrates, in this one of which will be glucose. When E. coli grows in a medium containing two substrates, that is glucose and lactose, it uses glucose preferentially until the glucose is exhausted. Then after a short lag phase during which bacterium synthesizes the enzyme needed for the lactose use, growth will resume with lactose as a carbon source. If this diphasic growth of E. coli is plotted in respect to bacterial density against time, two growth curves follow one after the other, intervened by a short lag phase is obtained, and this is termed as diauxic or diphasic growth curve. And this graph represents the diauxic or the diphasic growth curve of E. coli grown in a mixture of glucose and lactose. In this you can see that the glucose is first used and then it is followed by lactose, and you can see that there is a short lag phase in between, and in this lag phase the bacterium synthesizes the enzyme that is needed for the use of lactose from the medium. So the graph explained about a simple example that involved the bacterium E. coli. The bacterium is grown on a growth media containing two types of sugars, one of which is easier to metabolize than the other, for example glucose and lactose, in which the glucose is easily metabolizable than the lactose. First, the bacterium will metabolize all the glucose and grow at a higher speed. Eventually, when all the glucose has been consumed, the bacterium will begin the process of expressing the genes in order to metabolize the lactose in the medium. This will only occur when all the glucose in the medium has been consumed, and for these reasons diauxic growth occurs in multiple phases. The first phase is the fast growth phase, since the bacterium is consuming exclusively glucose and is capable of rapid growth. The second phase is a lag phase, while the genes used in lactose metabolism are expressed and observable cell growth stops there. This is followed by another growth phase, which is lower than the first because of the use of lactose as a primary energy source, and the final stage is the saturation phase. This type of diauxic growth can also occur when the bacterium in a closed batch culture consumes most of its nutrients and is entering the stationary phase. When new nutrients are suddenly added to the growth media, the bacterium enters a lag phase where it tries to ingest the food. Once the food starts being utilized, it enters a new log phase, showing a second peak on the growth curve.